What's going on, guys? Welcome to another special edition of the Senior Bowl after game at the party. We just got done being at the game, and it was amazing. I'm your humble host, Jerome Jones. We got my man Jacob Keppin. What's going on, Jacob?
Nothing much. It's been a long weekend. It's coming to an end. It's a bummer, but it's been a really good weekend. There's a lot. Senior Bowl content is not done yet whatsoever. I mean, we have a lot of film to break down from these past 5 days. Especially with this game here, there's a lot of good stuff we're going to talk about. But definitely look for more content from us in the next coming weeks.
All right, and Jacob's about to have his own podcast. And we
Yeah.
got Chris Thomas. What's going on, Chris?
What's going on? Week's finally over. Everything is accumulated to the game. So we pretty much saw one of three things. The people are having, a great week of practice, be able to accumulate it to today's game. People who aren't really practice warriors, but more so when the lights are on bright, they perform the most.
Oh, yeah.
Or those people who are practice warriors, but they just can't put it onto a game.
And Chris is trying to match Jacob. All right, let's go. Let's get right into this, guys. I'm super excited to be talking about this game. It was a good game. I think it was a good game overall. We already knew it was going to be a defensive game with the defense talent. But I want to know what you guys think. It was National versus America. National beat America 20-10. I believe in our last podcast we talked about who was going to win. I believe the consensus thought that National was going to win the game.
Yeah.
So I want to know what's some of your overall takeaways, and then we're going to break down each position, who got what, who got MVP, all that in a second. But start with you, Jacob. Let me hear what's your overall thought of how this whole process went, how the game went, and how did they win?
Well, quite simply, I think most of the guys who showed out during practice showed out during the game. There were some clear stars this week in Mobile, and they just absolutely brought it all together during the game. Some of the guys having their best performances. Really, I think the other big takeaway is that this defensive line is going. This is a phenomenal defensive line class, and for as much talk has been made about the edge rushers, and there are some great edge rushers not only here in Mobile but in the draft. There are some great defensive tackles as well. I think the defensive tackle position is one that's really surprised me down here, and it's still missing some of like the bigger names in the draft, such as DeMarvin Leal, such as Jordan Davis. This is going to be a very just good defensive line class as a whole, and it showed all week as they were pretty much beating up on the offensive line, which is a good group.
Chris?
Um, Pretty much. Also, not only the fact that this is a deep defensive line class, but the wide receivers definitely showed out and showcased pretty much. Everyone talks about, the Ohio State duo, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, talked about Traylon Burks, and they also talk about Drake London from USC. But what we saw down here at the Senior Bowl, uh, you know, Calvin Austin the third, his speed, like who knows? When I see this pro day, if he's a legitimate 4.340, if he is, I'm not going to be shocked about it. Romeo Dobbs also had a really good week as well. But to me, the biggest guy that has really upped his stock is definitely Christian Watson from North Dakota State. The guy practiced. The guy was a practice warrior all week. Though his ability to break in and out of routes and just overall in this game, like he had a really good catch early in the first quarter on a really underthrown ball by Kenny Pickett. He not only was able to get underneath it and make the catch, but he also had the wherewithal, like Jacob was talking about it when we was watching the game up, where the rest of the media was. He had the wherewithal to get up because he wasn't touched to get a few more yards down the field. And the one thing that really stood out to me about Watson was people really don't pay attention to how important run blocking is to a wide receiver. That one play where I believe is Abram Smith. He was caught a screen pass by Kenny Pickett to get to the end zone. Christian Watson put a pretty good block to ensure that that touchdown happened. So he's a guy that's definitely going to be probably a late first, early second in a really deep wide receiver class. If anything, this is was the showcase for him to up his stock.
Definitely. All right, let's get into our position groups, and we always like to talk to quarterbacks. So obviously we're gonna do that right now. And a game like this is kind of hard to justify everybody's stats and stuff like that. So take every stat with a grain of salt and just kind of look at the tape, kind of go.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna now. On the American team, we had Malik Willis. He only had 4 attempts, 2 completions for 11 yards. Sam Howell, six. I'm sorry, 9 attempts for 6 completions, 67 yards. He did run for a touchdown, and Bailey Zappi, he had 13 attempts, 8 completions. He did have 1 interception. We had 103 yards. He did get sacked 4 times as well. On the national team, we had Kenny Pickett with 6 of 6, which is great. 89 yards and a touchdown. He did get sacked once. Desmond Ritter, he was 4 for 6, 62 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Carson Strong, 6 for 11, 1 interception, 67 yards. So you're hearing those stats right there, and what I just told you about the quarterback position. Again, you got to rotate in, so you don't get like a full knowledge of what's going on just from the stats, but from what you guys seen, and you guys were there live and got to see in the press box. What is something that stood out to you with these quarterbacks? Starting with you, Chris.
Desmond Ritter is a lot better when the game actually matters as opposed to in practice. And you kind of saw him roll play action, roll out. You saw the athleticism. I mean, people marvel at Malik Willis's athleticism, and rightfully so. But I'd say probably as a runner, I think he's probably the second best athlete in terms of running the football, probably after Malik Willis. He got some pretty good rollouts. He didn't do anything too crazy to put the ball in harm's way. And those 2 touchdown passes he really had, they were just simple, tight end, flat routes. But in the end, he understood the assignments. He executed the offense to a T. And yeah, I feel like this kind of, made up for, a pretty rough practice that he had all week.
Yeah, so I want to start out by saying I don't think we can rightfully evaluate any of the American team quarterbacks, and we'll touch on this later. But that offensive line did them absolutely no favors. They
Yeah.
were overmatched every snap. I don't know how many times I said in the press box, stop trying to catch that guy, punch him, please. And they just kept getting overpowered with speed, with power. It was very rough to watch. We'll get into that later, but I thought that I agree with Desmond Ritter looking like the best quarterback today. He made a really nice throw to, I believe, Romeo Dubs off a play action,
Hmm.
fit it right in there. If that's an inch or two off, it was an interception. As someone who was skeptical of Ritter coming in, who was skeptical of him all week, I thought he played really well. Hal played all right. Pickett didn't really do anything special, but he did all of the he did exactly what he needed to win, which is kind of very much Kenny Pickett's game. Malik Willis was very exciting as a runner. He had to be because no one was helping him. The receivers weren't helping him. The offensive line wasn't helping him. But he did throw a really nice pass for a that was dropped. I just need him to stop fading. Carson Strong, it was a rough performance from him today. He should have had a touchdown and greatly underthrew his receiver. It was a very good pick by Taylor to be able to turn around and pick it, but it was I don't understand why Strong didn't drive it more on that pass. And I feel like his downfield accuracy all week has been a very inconsistent. It wasn't Strong's strongest showcase, and he was someone I was really hoping to see something from while he's playing against the higher competition.
Yeah. More, yeah, but to pretty much piggyback what Jacob was saying, it really wasn't, not because of the reps, but more so just the style of play.
Mm-hmm.
The offensive line really did any favors in terms of pass protection, and most of the stuff, especially the American offense, was pretty much run centric.
Yeah.
And really the only time that we actually seen the American offense actually, become pass heavy was the 2 minute drill they try to do with Sam Howell. at the end of the first half.
which they still struggled with because no one could block.
Mhm.
As it was, I wouldn't say any of the guys were necessarily like stand out horrible, but I don't know if anyone was like, wow, this dude is the number one guy or whatever. I think the biggest winner from this week might honestly be Matt Corral because he didn't have to come out. We'll see. A lot of teams love Willis down here. A lot of teams love Pickett, especially the Panthers, from what I'm hearing. But yeah, it was all right. It wasn't like years past with the quarterbacks. There was no Herberts out here. There was no Allens out here.
Yeah, but it's a much better upgrade than what we had last year with
Yeah.
Ian Book and Kellen Mond.
There's no Shea Pattersons out there either. I can tell you that. So
Hey.
listen, man. All right, there was no Steven Montez's out there. I'll
Oh man, wait till next year we get Sean Clifford and Tanner Morgan.
It's not as bad as people think next year. There are some guys like Brennan Armstrong and Hendon Hooker stayed. You're gonna have an underclassman who graduates early and gets in there.
Bo Nix.
Bo Nix, yeah.
Let's keep it
Listen, man, Bo Nix could be a lot.
We got a whole year.
Bo Nix is
We got a
fun.
whole year to talk about next year's
Bo Nix is fun, all right. I like Bo Nix. Well, not that much.
Oh, you're
but-
in the Bo Nix excuses Twitter. Oh, my God.
Listen, I said he
Let's bring it
was.
back in. Let's bring
I
it
said he was fun.
Let's bring it back in. So let's talk about the running backs. I personally think running backs had a lot of success.
Mhm.
Where the quarterbacks didn't have that much success. I think the running backs had success. Let's talk about the running backs. I think we had Malik Willis was the leading rusher for American, where the leading rusher for Nashville was Rasheed White.
Mhm.
But the other guys were productive. Who stood up to you guys? In my opinion, and I even know this guy was like, again, I didn't really realize these guys on the roster, so I had to ask. TJ Pledger, he actually surprised me. Surprisingly, I didn't even know he was on the roster. I'm like, dude, was he a late add-on or something? So I want to know what you guys thought about him. Obviously, White had a great week and followed up for a great game. We had Adams, who did a really good job as well. Brandon Robinson, he had 6 for 18, so he's a little underwhelming in this game as a runner. But I'm gonna hear from you guys. I'm sorry for you, Jacob.
Yeah, so you could tell a difference between the national and American squad because there was actually some pretty good run blocking going on from the national squad. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they had some pretty good run blocking going on. Ryman and actually showed me some things. Zion Johnson looked incredible as usual. Strange showed some things. Abram Smith is very hard to tackle. He won the practice player of the week for the running backs, which I disagree with because I think that Rashad White just flat out had a better week. And and so did Tyler Beatty, who didn't play today, sadly. Neither did Jerome Ford, sadly. But Abram Smith is very hard to tackle. He just bounces off defenders. I was very happy to see him have a receiving touchdown because that's going to be his biggest question, whether he's just going to be a 2-down thumper that goes in the 5th, 6th, or if he can be a full 3-down back. Rashad White still looked like the best back out there today because there's another gear when he runs. He's just such a nice slasher of a back. I'm a real big fan of him. I wonder how high on my list he can go, but
yeah. Well, he talks about national. I'll do a miracle. Obviously, the best running back for the American offense was definitely TJ Pleasure. He definitely 5 carries for 34 yards. He had the only touchdown for the American team. He also had 2 catches for 24 yards, but
He didn't have a touchdown.
Huh?
He didn't have a touchdown.
Oh,
Somehow had a touchdown.
Oh, okay. Oh, my bad. I read that as well.
yeah, it's on a loss. Yeah,
Oh,
attack
yeah.
for a loss. Yeah.
Oh, my mistake. Mission in error. But he was, for a guy his size, he runs pretty hard. The few holes that were actually open up for the American offensive line, he was able had a real quick burst. And if it wasn't for a defender coming on the right side, he would have hurdled over a national defender. And also his pass catching in the back, coming out of the backfield is definitely beneficial as well. Brian Robinson, it's kind of hard for me to be a little too hard, but there is a major difference between the offensive lines that he's had with Nick Saban in
Oh, yeah.
Alabama than the one he
Mhm.
had at the Senior Bowl today. I
Mhm.
mean, Alabama actually has an actual center, but it's kind of just hard for me to evaluate if Brian Robinson was just a victim of poor offensive line play or just he's out of all the running backs that have been coming out of Alabama over the past few years that he may not be the one that gets up next. But overall, TJ Pledger definitely has raised up his draft spot. Damian Pierce, I really liked him. He practiced hard. He's been doing a lot of good drills in terms of picking up blitzes in practice. So I feel like he's raised his stock as well. But Brian Robinson just left me unimpressed. He had a really good practice. You know, that good back and forth he had with Shannon Tyndall at the end of the third practice. But what I saw today just was really undesirable.
I think Brian Robinson sort of got, and this isn't his own fault. I think he sort of got a little overrated by the media because he had one really big game in prime time. Don't get me wrong, I like Brian Robinson, but I'm seeing he almost had the perception of being by far the best back here, being a guy who can go in the second, third round. Whereas before the game, he was rightfully seen as like a nice little fourth, fifth round option. And once you look at it through that lens, there's some things that are good about him. We already know he has talent and he's a hard runner, but I think he's not going to be like a star in the NFL
Yeah,
per se. I think he's going to be a nice little like Jay Ajayi type back
yeah,
for you. But, I think I think people had too high of expectations for him, especially as with the type of runner he is. This isn't necessarily the best showcase
yeah.
for that. You're kind of looking
People
more for.
just saw Najee Harris last year and just assumed
Yeah,
that was Brian
yeah.
Robinson.
It's
But
like I said, it's a tough thing. The
yeah,
expectations that were on him,
yeah,
but
and even when the teams got announced, he wasn't even the best SEC back that was even coming out here. To me, that belonged to James Cook. And
yeah. I was more intrigued by Cook there. Again, it's
yeah, and I was more intrigued by Hassan Haskins, but unfortunately, he didn't get an
well,
opportunity.
it's the very hard thing because when this running back group was announced, there were so many, and in this draft as a whole, there's so many big bruising guys.
Yeah,
So it's kind of hard to distinguish all of them. And sadly, Brian Robinson didn't distinguish himself today.
yeah,
All right, let's get into the receivers because the receivers. I mean, we came into this game saying the receivers are pretty good. Obviously, the quarterback play when the quarterback plays not that well, it's not going to help the receivers. But some of the guys that stood up to you guys, I know Bell Jones. He had the most. He was most productive out of the American team.
That
Where
surprised me. That very much surprised me.
yeah, we
Yeah.
had Jake Ferguson was the best out of the national. I mean, my guy finally made me look good with 3 catches, 62 yards and a touchdown. So thank you for making me look good again. I was worried about you during practice, man, but thank you for making me look good again. Also, we had Abrams. He had a touchdown, like we was talking about with him catching the ball, and Trey McBride, who had a touchdown, who I had a great photo of, and I could not get it, so I'm so upset about it. But I'll let you guys go. Anyway, I'll let you guys go. Start with you, Jacob. What do you think about the receiving core?
We said it before this game. There was a massive talent gap between the two teams, and it showed today. Those American receivers were disappointing me heavily today. It didn't seem like most of them were really committing to their routes as much as you'd hope they would. It was a okay showing. Austin looked fast. Jones showed me more things than I thought I was going to see, which is really good because I don't think he's ever going to be like your number one, two, or even maybe three option on your team. He's just going to be a solid kick returner, which he showed some signs of that today. My gosh, he had some really nice. He broke some tackles on the kick return, but I think Romeo Dubs had a pretty good game. Would have had more with some better play, but receivers were all right today. They weren't really the emphasis of play whatsoever.
yeah. And I feel like you could probably make a list of the wide receivers that end up either not coming or didn't play.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably better than what we saw from the two teams with like Alec Pierce, Khalil Shakur, Jahan Dotson. But overall, Bill Jones was really good,
Mm-hmm.
especially considering the American offensive line, which is a turnstile all day. Calvin Austin, on a fourth and miracle play, he managed to Moss his own teammate for
Right.
fourth down conversion.
He was not letting his shot go away with that one. He
Yeah,
took it right from his teammate.
yeah.
I felt bad for whoever his teammate was because he robbed them of stats.
I think it was Hazard, but Trey,
Oh,
yeah,
dang. That's
yeah, but Trey Turner didn't show much today. No receptions, but he had a really good week of practice. But as far as the national team, Romeo Dubs, um, I like him. I feel like if that ball that Carson Strong threw for the interception was a little more out in front, that's a touchdown that he
better
just
thrown.
yeah better thrown. That's a touchdown that he's running down the sidelines with. Bo Melton kind of concerned me today, especially with that first
That was rough.
fielding a punt return inside his own goal line. I mean, sometimes listen, just take the fair catch or just let it go out. Not everybody can be Dante Hall or Devin Hester. Just learn to fight another day. But yeah, these tight ends were definitely more on the center front
Mm.
than the wide receivers. I guess that kind of puts we go into our next topic. The only time that Carson Strong looked really good was throwing the ball to Cole Turner. He had two catches for 44 yards. You can clearly tell that there's a level of comfort there, a level of security, which is unfortunately because this might be the last time these two are probably ever going to throw the ball at each other.
Maybe.
Yeah,
If I'm a team and I'm really thinking about taking Carson Strong,
yeah.
I'd consider taking a little flyer on Turner, but I will be the Bo Melton defender here. I bet you they pretty much told all those guys forget about game situation, just go and get your touches whenever you can. And when they pretty much all of Melton's touches today were like manufactured touches, and the ones he looked good with them. He looks good with the ball in his hands. He looks like a former running back. He just some of these quarterbacks can't throw simple screen passes.
Yeah, and that's what made what Kenny Pickett did in that opening drive just a little better because he just
Yeah.
takes what the defense gives him, put the
Mhm.
ball in his playmakers' hands,
Mhm.
and they make the most of it. But Isaiah Likely didn't really get an opportunity to see him as a pass catcher, but I really did like the blocking he did,
Yep.
which helped seal the inside for Sam Howell to get that quarterback run like inside the red zone.
Destroyed the guy. He destroyed the guy, and it's awesome because I heard on the broadcast yesterday that he's not much of an inline blocker,
Could have
and
fooled me.
it's something that he talked about in our interview that he prides himself on his blocking, and he that touchdown doesn't happen without him. Sam Howell gets hit in the backfield without Likely there. So like I said, these tight ends look good. Jake Ferguson looks like Jake Ferguson out there.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't do anything special.
He just balls.
He just balls. He's the type of guy that's going to be a good second or third tight end on a team for the next however many years. He's going to stick in the league for a while.
It's funny. Me and Ray was talking about this in our RPO podcast
Mhm.
before we got down here. Talking about the Senior Bowl before we got down, and we were talking about Jake Ferguson, and the name that kind of popped up in our mind was and I'm sure all three of us will appreciate this, Brent Selleck.
Yeah, like that. I don't know if he'll be ever as good as Brent Selleck was like at his peak, but like I could see that.
I like that. Selleck he was solid at everything. He really didn't have like a weakness or like anything he did exceptional, but the guy had a pretty long career in terms of
Mhm.
just making pass catches and being a really good run blocker.
The way I can see the way Brent Selleck was like when Zach Ertz was really breaking out, and Zach Ertz was like the lead guy there. I can see that as like Jake Ferguson's career. The name that popped out into my mind was like Jack Doyle, being that sort of guy where he just excelled as a tight end too, who's a heck of a blocker and will make the catches that you need for a decade. That's the type of guy I saw in Ferguson as well. Then
All
again,
right. Well, let's get to the defense because I want to talk about our defenses. I love defense.
Good. Let's just skip
So
over there.
let's talk about that. Because that obviously defense shone in this game. You love defense, you love this game, and you love the players that was out there.
Mhm.
I'm gonna rattle off a couple of names and a couple of stats, and you guys can continue with other names and stuff like that. But Chad Moore had an incredible game. 9 tackles, the most out of everybody. We had Boye Mafe. He had three tackles, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble, as well as Jesse Luketa. There we go. Jesse Luketa, man, Penn State guy. Another 2 sacks, 3 tackles, and a forced fumble himself. And then let's see who else we have on here I can point out. Obviously on the American side, they have Daniel Malone, my sleeper of this 6 tackles, a half sack, half tackle for loss. He balled out for the American team. DeMar Jackson, another one of our sleepers, 6 tackles, solo tackles right there. So they're just naming a couple of guys right there. Anybody stood up to you guys? Go ahead, Chris. You go first.
The national defense was just everywhere today.
Oh yeah.
But just to highlight real quick about the American defense, they did their thing today. Unfortunately, John Ridgway got hurt. Hopefully, it's not serious.
Mm-hmm.
But D'Angelo Malone was definitely like a one-man wrecking crew out there. So it was good to see. And that little post-game press conference, especially with the hat he was wearing, it was really telling. Maybe something happened in that locker room.
Yeah, maybe. That was very interesting. That was very because when someone asked, are you sending like a message or is there any sign with that? He didn't say no. That's just the team I'm wearing's hat, or like the coach I'm wearing. Like he was like maybe, So hey, we'll see. If I'm I honestly, all 32 teams would be interested after that performance.
Yeah, but in regards to the national defense, it wasn't just Boy My Thing. It was Travis Jones.
Oh, yeah.
It was also Maji Sanders from Cincinnati. It was Perrion Winfrey. It was Therese Smith who finished up that sack after the Maji Sanders pressure. Mm-hmm. Isaiah Thomas did his thing also. So it was just a collective effort. And the one thing about it is that when you talk about Boye Mafe, the one person that he really highlighted was Perrion Winfrey's voice, especially on that defensive line. So you can really tell when that unit, Perrion Winfrey was definitely the leader. And when just watching him, the guy was very disruptive, winning his battles. I mean, but in the end, it's like you can talk about how bad the offensive line is, but in the end, the defense doesn't care about that. You shouldn't care about that. If you all in the end, just get your job done. And what we saw today is that front seven, Luketa also just did the thing today. And to me, you're looking at a guy like Perrion Winfrey, who definitely might be, itching into that bottom half of the first round now, or like the early second.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. I think that Perrion Winfrey is a guy who, if he really excels in his career and keeps getting better, is a potential defensive captain right there. He's a guy that I could see when he's like 32, 33, being that veteran that everyone looks up to on a defense. Jesse Luketa probably was the best defensive end from Penn State this week. And that's no knock on Arnold Ebiketie either. Arnold Ebiketie looked like a solid day 2 guy as he is. Jesse Luketa looked very good this week. He came in at like 260, and I wondered, all right, did he just get bigger? Like, is the athleticism going to be there? He burst into the backfield like a missile. It is absolutely crazy, the athleticism that he has. And he's someone that I think could play all around your defense too. Like, if he were to play just regular off-ball linebacker, I think he could excel in that role as well. Not just as a blitzer, but just as a guy that runs around and makes tackles. So he's a guy that I think could fit in a lot of defenses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the thing is that he may be only 6'3", and weight-wise, he's not the biggest, but the guy has definitely a high motor. And when I was talking to like everybody else, one person said he definitely reminds me of. He said he reminds me of Brandon Graham when he was coming out of Michigan,
Interesting.
and I could definitely see that he was not the biggest, but the high motor, the ability just to cause disruptive plays from the backfield. It's going to take a while, but what you're seeing now in Brandon Graham, especially in the latter half of his career, is definitely I can see in Jesse Lucetta.
I will say too, because the defensive backs aren't getting enough love. Like Kirby Joseph played a good game today too. He's someone I didn't really have on my radar coming into this game, but he played pretty good. It's just hard because this Troy Anderson also had a good game too, but it's hard when all of the defensive line had 8 sacks today in a game. They had 8 sacks. The American squad had 1 and they had 8 sacks. There was a true talent gap on just in not only the defensive line but in the 2 offensive lines. I thought that I really do think Perrion Winfrey is a guy that really can go first round, and I don't think Travis.
Yeah, and you
is
can
gonna
just
have to
tell
wait
just
longer.
by his demeanor. And
Mhm.
the one thing that I really took away from like his presser is that he'd been wanting to go to this Reese's Senior Bowl as like a kid.
Oh yeah,
And the person he highlighted the most was Aaron Donald. And granted, I don't think he's probably ever because there's only going to be one Aaron Donald, but
yeah.
the drive, the way that he was talking, the way he was able to take command, everybody else was like, yeah, this is the guy that set the tone for the entire week. I could definitely see him probably having like a future down the line as like an Aaron Donald presence in that locker room.
And then one thing that really intrigues me about Winfrey is like how hard he's had to fight just to get to this stage, because we're talking about a guy who he wasn't heavily recruited out of college because like other reasons or whatever. I think academics and stuff like that, but he went the JUCO route, killed it there, came to Oklahoma, was a men was a pretty really good lineman for them. I've heard from Oklahoma fans they don't think he was used well enough in their defensive scheme. I don't know. We'll find out. The tape says that, but I think that he was disruptive enough in his tape because stats and production doesn't mean everything. It's like D'Angelo Malone today. Malone only had a half sack, but was in the backfield every play. Perry Winfrey, I just love everything about his game. He gives so much in every snap.
And fun fact, he does not like Reese's.
No, he doesn't really. He did not like Reese's.
Also, just real quick before we go to the next group, Travis Jones probably had like my favorite play of the game where he just drive that offensive lineman to Bradley Zappi.
Yeah, drew him right into his lap. It was great.
Definitely. All right. Well, speaking of Perrion Winfrey, he actually got the MVP of the game. So congratulations to him.
He did.
Oh man, I just had it all right here.
Oh no.
Oh no.
There we go. Nope. Cool. I had the list of who everybody was. All right. Perrion Winfrey got the MVP. Malone had the MVP of the American, and who had national? Still trying to find it. Well,
I assume Winfrey would just have had it.
No, he had the overall MVP.
Oh, so they gave
they gave one
like a runner up almost.
Oh, probably Mafe.
Yeah, probably Boy Mafe because he went.
Boy
Which might I add, he could have easily won MVP. Like you can make an argument for Lucada. You can make an argument for Mafe. You can make an argument for Travis Jones if you really want. Like it was that great of a performance.
Like you could have had like that whole defensive line.
Yeah, like you could have given
that presser
every one of those the game ball for today.
All right. So with that being said, I want to know who your personal MVP is. So it don't necessarily mean the guy that got the MVP or any stats, but who's your personal MVP? Jacob, I'm gonna start with you. Who was your MVP of the Senior Bowl in total? Maybe not just the game, but in total, the entire week. Who was your guy?
So the entire week, you want just one or an offensive and defensive?
Just one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Perrion Winfrey. He just dominated the 1v1s, dominated the 11v11s. all 3. That's the thing. There's some guys who had like 2 days really of practice, really good, one down and a good Senior Bowl. Like they had like 80% of a great week. Herman Winfrey was incredible from the moment he started to the moment he finished. He was just in a league of his own.
Give us an offensive one too.
I'll be different here. I thought Zion Johnson was great. It's hard to really pick from the skill position players, but I just think Zion Johnson was generating so much push on those runs. I was a very big fan of him. Even playing center, which probably should not be his position at the next level. I respect him for going out there and trying something completely new and not looking like a fool at it. That's very hard to do. But he's another guy that I think just being a guard can be a first round pick. He reminds me, maybe not as much stylistically, but he reminds me of Elijah Vera Tucker last year, where it's just like, yeah, this guy's just a really solid overall guard. Like, he may not be like the Quentin Nelson level, he might not be like the game changer, but you take him and you have a plug and play starter for probably the next decade. I was a very big fan of him.
Just overall, well, I guess we did end up doing defense and offense.
Yeah.
I know. But let's see, defense. I got to give it to Travis Jones. He's had solid practice every single week, and he was able to put it into the game. His ability to not only be disruptive in run game, and not only the run game, but also in the passing game. Like I said, like he has my favorite play, just driving one of the interior alignments in the Bradley Zapp for the sack was probably one of my favorite plays because it shows the amount of raw power to do something like that is really rare to see from a young man like that.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as offensive MVP, I'm gonna go with Malik Willis. He's done absolutely nothing but raises his stock. He's at this point now the worst kept secret now in Mobile, Alabama.
Oh yeah.
And by the draft, you're probably going to see him probably the first quarterback mocked into the top 10. You saw glimpses of the athletic ability and the raw talent. You saw it in the Senior Bowl practices. You more so saw the arm in the practice as opposed to a game because he really couldn't show much of his arm because the way that defensive front was just breathing down his neck throughout the entire game. But the run that he had at the end of the first quarter, that's going to be something that scouts look at. It was like, okay, I'm going to take a chance on this kid because it's either going to be I'm going to draft him and I'm going to be the smartest guy in the room, or this guy is going to get me fired. There's really no in between.
Mm-hmm.
But the raw talent is there, and when you look at drafts over the past few years, especially the quarterback position, raw talent is something GMs is definitely going to take a chance for because they can just refine all the other fundamentals.
Definitely. That last run was Lamar Jackson like, that was Randall Cunningham like
Michael
that
Vick.
was Michael Vick like, that was special. I think everyone, they get very scared to make lofty comparisons like that, and I'm not trying to compare Malik Willis to those guys because I think no two guys play alike, but that was a special run. His open field ability was incredible, and on Travis Jones, you have a guy like that that's so big, disruptive, and helps out everyone else on that defense. He's very similar to Jordan Davis, so I wonder if you're a team that misses out on Davis, how quickly you're going to go and get Jones, and I wonder if it's going to make it hurt Jones Davis's stock a little bit because there's a player so similar to him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. I mean, I'm gonna tell my guys on defense. This might surprise you guys, but I'm gonna say Jesse Lukita.
Yeah.
He was my guy. He was very consistent all weekend. Mm-hmm. He played really well on defense. He showed that he surprised me. I thought FK was gonna be the guy. I think he played better in the Senior Bowl than him. Mm-hmm. Personally, and that's our guy, and I think I don't know, he just came through. And my other guy, 3 out of the 4 days, obviously 3 practices, 1 game day. He didn't do nothing, almost near to nothing in game day because obviously quarterback play and stuff like that. But I'm gonna keep saying it. Christian Watson. I'm gonna keep saying it.
He was incredible
He's
today.
very,
Absolutely.
very, very good.
Very
all
good
3
catch.
days, and he had a quiet day today because obviously rotations and wide receivers don't get a lot of stats in these games anyway.
Yeah, but the only target, he made the most of it.
Yeah.
They only threw the ball like 23 times today.
Yeah.
There's not many targets to go around when you consider a good amount of those are already throwaways.
100%. So I mean, that was my guy for offense, and I've been talking about him all week. So I'm very intrigued to see what he does in the combine and his pro days. That's gonna be very fun and exciting to see. Before we get off though, I want to hear you guys. What is your favorite part of this entire week? Starting with you, Chris. What was your favorite part of the week?
The fact that I got the opportunity to come last year, made some connections, and then coming back again and meeting those same people from last year and reconnecting, it was just something special. And now it's something where it's like we've made these bonds. We have the Senior Bowl every year to look forward to. We get the opportunity to go out, go on Twitter, and compare notes in terms of what we see. Draft comparisons. Who do we like? Who do we dislike? Who some guys that we're looking forward to in the following year? It's just the networking and getting the opportunity to network with a bunch of people and even getting to meet some families. Fun fact: I actually got to meet Trey Turner's family on my way back to the stadium. So just the networking standpoint is really fun for me.
Just the opportunity to feel like you belong to this sort of thing. It's very hard as a college kid to not have that I'm the college kid and I don't belong here mentality because this is a lot different than covering a Rowan basketball game or any high school event that I've done prior. While there might be one or two bigger reporters at those events because they are important events, there was everyone there at the Senior Bowl. You run into your heroes everywhere, people that you've been watching make content since you wanted to get into the sports journalism business. And to be able to say, hey, we have access to the same exact type of things.
You're their peer now.
I can go up to him and shake his hand, introduce myself, and not look like some crazed fanboy, and look at it as a networking thing to an event that we both belong at, that we're both credentialed by. It's a very awesome, sort of humbling as well experience, and it's motivating. This entire week has been very motivating because you're surrounded by people at their best, not only outside with all the big journalists, but even just in this house as I'm watching Jerome video edit till 1, 2 in the morning. And it's like, all right, I'm going to step my own game up now. That's what I liked most about this week. It was a great experience and it makes you want it even more. You remember why you came down here. You didn't just come down here to go to get barbecue and talk to prospects. You came down here because it's what you love to do.
Speaking of that, catering also.
Oh yeah,
really
the catering was pretty dang good today. I heard someone kind of make a sly comment about the pulled pork. I'm like, really? It's free food,
Yeah, I'm gonna second everything y'all guys said. This was a great experience, and I love doing this. It's my 4th year. Hopefully, there's many, many more that I can get to do this year. But I'll say my favorite part of the whole experience, all the free Reese's, baby. I love myself some Reese's. So thank you guys for being on with us, man. That's gonna conclude our Senior Bowl coverage. Make sure you keep checking us out on all our website, InsideTheHashes.com. We find all our content. We're gonna have a lot more Senior Bowl content coming out in the next upcoming days and weeks, even after that. So please make sure you go stay locked in for Inside the Hashes. Also, check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. We find all our player interviews. Chris just had one just came out a few days ago. So make sure you go check that out. We got a lot more coming up very, very soon. Some big names.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Drop anything.
Can't wait for it.
Oh, yeah.
We got some big names coming
Just
out.
wait on
So
it.
please
Just
make
wait
sure
on
you go
it.
check that out. Also, make sure you go on our YouTube channel. If you're not watching the live right now, you can go back on a replay. But if you go in there, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and also hit that notification button so we know when we do go live. Because we got plenty of our podcasts on there. We got interviews coming, video interviews. So make sure you go check that out as well. Because we got it locked on inside the hash. So make sure you go like, subscribe on that YouTube channel right there as well. Again, InsideTheHashes.com. You find all our content on there. Guys, we appreciate all y'all coming on.
We
Man.
might upload on TikTok finally.
Maybe.
But guys, we appreciate everything y'all, each and every one of y'all checking us out, man. And I know a couple of my guys out here checking us out. So shout out to y'all right now. Thank you guys for checking us out because we have fun doing this. We really do, and we enjoy each and everything that we do. So we want y'all to enjoy y'all football content as well. So Inside the Hash is word to be. So again, Air It Out podcast on Thursdays, RPO podcast on Wednesdays, RPO podcast about to get popular because we're about to talk a lot of draft and stuff like that on there as well. So make sure you go check us out. Again, thank you guys. Again, we're out of Mobile. We're going home tomorrow. I know you guys are excited to go home, even though we love it down here. But after a while, you want to go home. So thank you guys so much.
Nah, I've been looking up apartments.
Hey, I want to sleep in a good bed. I want to sleep in a good bed. I sleep in a
Listen, I sleep on a campus bed without a comforter. I'm made different. This has been more comfortable than back home.
But thank you guys so much for checking us out, and we'll see you again in the future. Peace out.